within the time frame of 3 months, or sometimes it can take a little bit longer. What most people don't realize, as I explain to mentees and also clients, as I just mentioned, there's a lot of different variables, and we're going to discuss some of them today. So what I'm gonna actually do is pull up something real quick so you guys can stay with us. But if you have notes, if you're taking notes, then you can jot some of this stuff down. But I do want to share just a picture. And I know some of you guys have already seen this hundreds of times already through some of the consultations. But let me pull that up for us real quick. All right. 1 second here. Okay. Hold up here on the screen. All right. This is the overall process, as we already know, right? So solar job goes through a few different stages before it gets to install. And the first step, obviously, is the sale, right? Now, most people, when they have the sale, usually that's a good stage, right? There's a lot of excitement in this stage of the process. But what most people don't know is this is literally where the job starts, right? So for some people, let's say if there's a mentor-mentee relationship, but in some cases for those who are closers or mentors, it's the whole process. There's a lot of work that goes in before the deal is even set up, right? So there's a lot of follow-ups, calling, prospecting, getting the client to even say yes to the appointment. So sometimes that in itself could take a long time, right? But once the deal is actually closed, right, which is the sale, basically having a client agree to say yes, then this is where the job starts, right? Now, the first step after the client says yes is the project review and the application and the agreement. Now, the application, first and foremost, is to make sure that the client gets approved. Now, I'm going through this in each and every step because a lot of people don't realize that sometimes the purpose of going with either finance or a lease might be determined by how the application process even goes. I'll give you an example. I have a client right now in New York who, let's see, what's the situation? Her credit is good, but she has a few negative marks. Mortgage on her deed, she's the owner, but she also has a co-signer, which is her daughter. So being that we seen the deed and we went through that information, I actually asked her, hey, would you like to use your daughter as a co-signer for your solar project? And she said no. Right? I don't want to use my daughter again. I already used her for the house. I don't want to use her for anything else. So for that reason, because she had a good credit score, but some negative remarks, we couldn't do the finance, but we had to do the lease. Right? Obviously, as you guys know, finance is taking out a loan. So we called the loan company. They explained exactly why she wouldn't get approved. So we had to do the lease. Point in telling you is that this is good information as far as what word am I looking for? Managing your expectations, right? Unfortunately, some people go and get started and so on and so forth, and they believe that everybody is supposed to pass credit, and that's not necessarily the case. Or just because you have good credit doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to take advantage of the finance. Why is this so much of an important part of the process? Because as if you've seen my consultations before in the past, there's a set of questions that we ask in the beginning to get a better understanding of which direction we should take this homeowner, right? Knowing that before we actually present is extremely important. right? So I stress that. But if you have any questions on that, you can definitely ask me later on. But that's the first part, right? Obviously, the application, getting this homeowner approved. And as I just showed you, there's different variables that can go into getting a homeowner approved. Also, if there is, let's say, a husband and a wife, let's say the husband's name is on the title of the house or the deed, but the wife isn't. Let's say the husband has bad credit, but the wife does. This is another example of why this couple may not may not qualify for finance. Because on a finance deal, most finance companies, the uh, the the signer and the co-signer need to be on the title of the house on a deed, right? That's in most situations. And once again, a lot of people don't know this, and this is where a lot of expectations get mismanaged, right? So once again, this is why we ask all of those questions up front before we actually have the consultation, so people can actually know. And if you're wondering what questions I'm referring to, let me go ahead and show you those, right? Because it's important for some of you maybe to see, right? Let me actually show those real quick. And here's what I would recommend, right? If you haven't seen these questions as of yet, you might want to, I would say, take a snapshot of them, but also incorporate some of them into maybe you setting up appointments, right? Now, not all of them, but some of them will definitely be valuable. All right. And as soon as this opens up, I'm going to share that with you guys. Just give me 1 second. It's taking a while to open up. But yeah, it's a set of questions that basically allow you to find out where exactly you stand with the homeowner. So let's see, where's that at? We're opening. Okay. It's opening up. Sorry for the delay. It should be opening up shortly.
Idris, just to clarify, you were saying that for the loan, the co-signer has to be on the deed. Is that what you said?
Yes, for the loan, correct.
Okay, I
Right.
did
And
not
that's
know
a
that.
very, say that again.
No, I didn't. I did not know that. I don't know. That's good info.
Yeah, so it's important to that I stress that because once again, sometimes we go into deals with mis expectations, right? Or you may have a client who you're thinking is going to qualify for one thing when they may not. So this is a little complicated to explain all during or even before the consultation. And obviously, this is information that me as a consultant still doesn't know either, right? And this is exactly why we ask these questions that you see here. So the specific questions that I'm referring to are, so this is broken down, and I put this together specifically. The questions on the left are more about kind of like the home and just getting a general idea of the consultation, how it's going to go. Sorry about that. Right. The questions on the right are more of the specific ones that need to be asked to find out what type of deal is going to be sold. Right. So whether it's going to be a finance or a lease. Right. So for instance, name on the title. Obviously, I just mentioned that. Whether they're working or retired, mention that as well. Yearly income is not a question that I usually ask too often, but whether they pay taxes or owe, this is going to basically, this is basically going to let me know whether how to explain the finance, how to explain the finance, right? So obviously, sometimes you hear that a homeowner gets those taxes back, but sometimes if they owe taxes, then they usually take what they get back from the tax credit would actually apply to what they owe. So I need to know this up front so I know how to explain it to the homeowner so it's not explained in the wrong way, right? Are you familiar with with your credit score? And once again, if you need it, would you have a co-signer? All of these questions allow me to understand exactly which option would be best for the homeowner so I don't present them one that I know they're not going to qualify for. right? So once again, if you can, I would recommend just taking a quick snapshot of this, so you have some of these questions. When booking appointments, I wouldn't ask all of these. The first two are some I would ask. And then the last one I would ask is, what's your average electricity bill? Just gives you a sense of if that's going to be a pain point in the overall deal, right? So once again, three questions I would ask while booking appointments. And you can just add this to the repertoire, what you're already saying. How long have you been looking into solar? Why haven't you moved forward? And what's the average bill? The rest I would leave for the consultant. If you start to get into too many details, they'll ask you questions once you can't answer them. Obviously, we know sometimes deals the appointment doesn't even get set, right? So that's with that. Okay. Now let's go back to the actual time frame. Okay, and let me bring them back up. Okay. All right. So once again, this is all, and as you guys can see, there's a lot that goes into step number one, right? The agreement, right? A lot of this process takes place kind of like way before we even get to this step. But that's the application. And when we talk about application, we're talking about either a credit check, which some companies do a hard credit check initially, most don't, but some do, or the credit verification, which comes from the lease. Second thing, obviously, is the agreement. That's pretty straightforward. Homeowner signing the solar contract to move the deal forward. And that's step number one, right? Now, step number two, as all of the applications is done and the agreement is signed and everything is clear, now the site survey, right? So the goal when having a site survey is to ideally set it up within as soon as possible, right? But as we know, let's say we close the deal today, and obviously as soon as possible would be tomorrow. But it's not always available on their calendar, the site surveyor's calendar, and it may not be available for the homeowner. So if those two don't align as soon as possible, obviously we need to push it out. So I've seen site surveys get pushed out as far as 2 to 3 weeks, right? And it happens that way, right? Not much that we can kind of do when it takes that long, right? Obviously, we just need to work with the homeowner to the best of our ability so we can get it done as soon as possible. But the right expectation is to know that it could take, I would say, up to 2 weeks to get a site survey done. Now, that's the site survey. The second part of the site survey is the final design. When a site survey is done, right? For those who may have had it personally already, but if you haven't, the process is for the engineers to come out, check the roof, and check the electrical work. That process in itself takes roughly about an hour overall. Pretty quick, pretty straightforward. But bringing that information from where on site back to the office, this is where a lot of people get a little confused because there's a lot of analysis that goes into that process. Believe it or not, this could be another 2 week time frame, right? Now, it doesn't seem like it should be, but when they bring that, everything is on a pipeline, right? So when they bring that information in, the people in the office, there's a pipeline of jobs that they're checking before they get to the job that was just submitted in, right? Now, sometimes it can take a little longer than others, right? Not only do they need to bring that information in, but they need to analyze that information and they need to rework that information on their end. And we're talking about freedom here, to figure out what's the best case scenario for the homeowner as they think. Now, sometimes they'll adjust the system, and it may make sense, but sometimes it may not make sense based on what the customer wants. This is usually where or any consultant will get the deal, and then they have to analyze it themselves, right? So I want to give you guys an example, a visual example. Let's see. For this deal, let's just use this as an example, right? So let's say this is a New York City deal, and we have panels here this is the front of the house here. and this would be the right side of the house, right? Let me move this. Give me 1 second. Move this here. Okay. So let's say the right side of the house, actually, let's say the whole house roof is bad, right? It needs to completely be replaced, right? Let's see. This is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay, 14 panels, right? So if the whole roof is bad, there's two options here in this situation. We either need to fix the whole roof or we can possibly add the panels on the garage, right? Now, we're going to do some participation a little bit, right? And I'm going to ask for anyone out there who wants to answer, why do you think the panels are here instead of anywhere else on on the house, on the right hand side? Why do you think they're there instead of anywhere else?
It could be two things, the direction of the sun or the homeowner's request that where they be.
Both of those are perfect. Absolutely. Absolutely, right? So main reason being that this is the best place to put the panels, right? So absolutely, that's why they're there. But let's say once again the roof is not in good condition at all, then sometimes once I get this information back and I get the report saying that, hey, the roof is not in good condition, we have to do this, that, and the third, I might look to put the panels here, right, on a garage, right? So let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 on the left, 6 on the right. There's a total of 12, right? Now, which would make more sense? Asking this homeowner to fix their whole roof, which may be another 10, $15,000 added onto the job, or just putting it on the garage. This is a determination, usually, that the consultant has to make to figure out what's the best situation for this homeowner. Yes, caller.
I would say in consultation with the client, if they want a new roof, then it would be good to do a new roof. If they don't, then it would be good to put it on the garage.
Yes. True. Very true. That's the best way to say this. That's definitely a good point. But in this situation, and let's go back to the timeline. In this situation, you guys will hear me say this on my consultations moving forward. At this stage, this is where the homeowner can make a decision on, this is where they make the final design, and the homeowner has the ability to make the final decision on whether they want to move forward or not. That final decision is going to be based on how much more added costs we have to add on to the job. Because we got to remember, solar is marketed as a free, no money out of pocket, everything is free. You don't have to put any money down. So when we get to this stage, right, depending on the client, and you now tell a client, hey, it's going to cost an additional 10, $15,000. Most clients at this stage may cancel the job, right? And it's just a reality, right? So when we get to this stage, it's very important that I analyze the job to figure out what's the best case scenario for them. Now, in the consultation, if someone says, hey, my roof is bad, I know I need a new one, right? And by the way, based on the questions that we asked if they even had any issues with the roof, right? The first set of questions. So we asked them, have you had any issues with the roof? All right. How long have you lived in the house? I asked those questions to get a sense of if the homeowner knows. All right. If they know, that's a different situation. If they don't know and they're completely oblivious to the situation, then you got to handle it a little careful. I want to show you guys another example of this. And I want to show you another example. It's from it's another platform, but I can't show you in any other way. Give me 1 second here, right? Because I want to show you a real case scenario. I don't want to just make up examples. Give me 1 second. I'm pulling it up here now because this just happened with a client. 1 second here. Okay, so I'm pulling it up now, and you guys are about to see. I'm giving you a sneak peek of what really takes place here in the field, right? Okay, so this is a real live situation, right? This is at the exact stage that I'm talking about. So we get the final design. Let's just say this is the same design for the house that I just showed you, right? Well, we get this information back, right? MSP, main service panel, is done without a permit. This is what our engineers found out from their site survey, that the MSP, main service panel, was done without a permit. In addition to that, so they're basically saying to fix that is going to cost $1,800, right? In addition to that, the client needs a roof layer, right? So if you ever hear me say, I know I was speaking to another builder about this recently, you'll never hear me talk about the cost of a roof up front because I'm not a roofer. And I don't know, in most of these cases, I don't know what is actually needed for the roof to be done. In addition to that, the homeowner is not going to know either. The reason why I'm explaining that is because in this situation, you see that the homeowner needs a roof over a roof layer, not a new roof. So the difference in pricing for a new roof, the roof I just showed you, could be about 10 to 15,000. A roof layer is only 3. I don't want to be the person who over predicts to that homeowner to tell them that a roof is 15,000 if it's only 3. Right? I also don't want to underestimate it if it might be much more. So instead of even giving a price, I'll let the engineers do what they do. And then once I get that information back, now I can go back to this homeowner and say, you know what? The overall job for fixing the MSP to fix with the permit and the roof is going to be roughly about 4,800, right? 5,000 in total, generally, right? And now we can add this into the job and get the job moved forward. But you got to be very careful about handling these situations. Once again, this is a reason why a job can be delayed. This is some of the back end work that takes place that a lot of people may not necessarily see and or understand. So as for instance, or I'll just speak generally, every house is going to have a different situation, right? For this homeowner, this lady just bought her house earlier this year, and she already needs a roof layer, right? I had a conversation with her earlier today, and she basically told me that the inspector that checked her job didn't do a good job because obviously they said that the roof was in good condition, but it's not. Now, this is what she told me, but and I tell homeowners this all the time, when a inspector is checking your roof, they're checking your roof to make sure that it's not about to, fall through or, collapse. It's a different viewpoint when we're talking about adding solar, right? Because we need to make sure that the roof is going to basically last and be good for much longer, right? Hopefully, does that make sense to everyone? Hopefully, I didn't lose anybody.
Yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect,
Idris, what is a roof layer?
perfect. So that's a great question, right? So a roof layer would basically be like adding an additional layer of shingles on top of what's already there, right? So you can either add a layer or you can just take the current existing shingles off and put a new one, right? So that's just a simple roof layer instead of adding a whole new roof because the bones of the roof underneath, like the real roof itself, may not necessarily need to be replaced, but they may have shingles that are falling off or shingles that are cracked, and just may need a little touching up. All right. But once again, very big difference than a complete re-roof. Right.
Idris,
Yes, sir.
being a former roofer, I know that it's called a layover. That's what we
Okay.
call it here in the state of Virginia. You can't do that anymore.
Can't
You
do
can't
it.
you can't do a layover. You have to do a
Yeah.
tear off. And some states they don't do that anymore. Just so you
Really?
know that information. Yeah.
So this goes into the variables that I'm referring to. right? I actually have a client in Virginia right now who's waiting on doing a new roof, right? So this is why we always tell mentees there's a lot of variables that go into each and every deal in each and every state, right? Now, I didn't know what you just mentioned, right? But I'm experiencing it right now for a specific client. So thank you. I appreciate that. But yes, the rules are different in each state, which causes more variables. Because also in the notes, I wanted to mention this is why in some states jobs get installed much faster than they do in others, right? It's just the reality of the situation. So yeah, thank you for that. But let's go back to the timeline. Okay. So once again, for this homeowner, as an example, as I just showed, they need a roof layer, right? So that roof layer is going to cost them 3,000 to put a new roof layer and not a whole new roof, right? So we go with that. Once that takes place, right, and the homeowner decides, okay, this makes sense. You added the roof, as you guys seen, the MSP main panel service that gets added to the job. Whatever the original price, obviously, that we sold to the homeowner, now is going to be increased because we're adding basically an additional $5,000. As we add that $5,000, we have to go through this process all over again, right? And they have to re-sign new documents, which is called the change order. And they have to agree to that, and then they have to re-sign it. So usually when there's a change like that I just showed, I will sit with the client again and basically have a whole nother consultation with that client again to make sure first and foremost that they understood what took place, but they also understand the change order and why it's going to be a little bit more, just so there's 100% transparency on everything. And, people aren't like misunderstanding the process, so on and so forth. That in itself, right? Once again, we got to rebook another appointment. And we have to, sit with the client and explain everything again. And then in some cases, once you re-explain everything to them, now the homeowner may need another day or two to review it and then agree again. Right? So once again, this is more time added on to the process. Right? So just want to be clear. Now, this is not every deal, as we know, right? But some deals, a lot of deals play out just like this. And this is all done on the back end, right? It's not, you may not always see all of this that goes on, but let's say they do agree, then we move to the permitting stage. Whew. Now, the permitting stage, right, which is very different, once again, in every state, myself, Freedom, usually doesn't have anything to do with it, right? It's usually the permitting process of that state's, the township, the county, the borough, and their process as far as how long it takes for them. Now, sometimes this can be very frustrating because in some areas it can take a lot longer than people believe or think. Um, so this process overall, the longest I've seen it take is roughly about 2 months, right? Maybe even a little bit longer, right? You would think it would be quick, but as I talked about earlier, there's a pipeline, right? So every county who's permitting deals are waiting to go through the pipeline until your job comes up, right? So we wait. Sometimes it happens sooner than later. But then, obviously, once that's done, then we go to the installation stage. Now, I've talked about this before, specifically in this quarter of the year. You're dealing with multiple forces that may cause delays, right? So we're talking about pile-ups, right? Multiple people getting installed all at the same time. It's normal and it happens, specifically the longer we wait until the end of the year. But in addition to that, we're now talking about weather, right? So you're not going to install when it's raining. When does it rain the most? In the fall and the winter time, right? You're not going to install when it's freezing outside. When is it usually freezing? In the fall and the winter, or the winter time. Obviously not in snow and things of that nature. So you have different forces that kind of work against you as far as installing, but then installing in the right time frame. In addition to that, in the fourth quarter, right, you can just, imagine what could take place, because could also happen in the summertime, right? We're not going to install if it's 110 degrees outside, right? So all of these forces come into play when it comes to scheduling the install, in addition to being there when the homeowner is available. Sometimes homeowners go on vacation, or holidays. All types of things happen where you have to consider the actual time frame. In most homeowners' minds, an installation is like a grand deal, and most people think it's going to take like 4 or 5 days. It's about a 4 to 8 hour shift, right? It can usually happen all in one day. But before we even go even further, another big reason why sometimes some jobs take a little longer, I'll get to that in a bit, right? But yes, the install, right? We'll talk about that a little later. But yes, the install. Once the install is done, right, then we have PTO. Point basically when they turn the system on, when they're able to turn the system on, right? But this is also the stage where all of the inspections take place. Now, from a timeline perspective, the two timelines that can take the longest, they can all take long, but those that can take the longest would be permitting and PTO and inspections. Why? Because we don't necessarily manage them. It's again with the county, with the state, with the borough, and it's not necessarily through freedom. And freedom is not inspecting the job, right? So you're dealing with the municipality and their timeline of setting that up with you and the homeowner, right? Sometimes they may set it up, the homeowner may not be available. And trust me, this stage, easily a month, if not a month and a half, if not longer. Right? And in some areas, there's two inspections that are taking place, not just one. So the reason why I tell you this is not just to once again manage expectations. Usually, when speaking to home mentees, there's a lot of frustration, which is granted, right? But there's a lot of frustration out of not understanding the process or understanding the time frame or timeline, I should say. There are things that don't always go perfect as well, right? And that we live in an imperfect world, so there's going to be things that happen. But a lot of it is also based on the actual timeline itself, and not necessarily everything just going haywire, right? And then once this is done, right, now we have the system activating, right, or system activation. So this is also a very important stage because I like to manage the client's expectations at this time. Just because a system turns on today doesn't mean that that bill is going to reflect that on this month's bill or next month's bill. To be honest, is usually about a month or about 2 to 3 months after the system is turned on that you actually start seeing the difference. So if a homeowner gets installed today, right, I usually tell them that they're not going to see the difference on that bill until January. Now, it could happen sooner, but once again, I want to manage their expectations, right? Because otherwise, you'll have some people who get installed today, get turned on today, I should say, and then they'll call you next month and say, "Hey, this is not working. Hey, there's something wrong with my system. Hey, you scammed me. You sold me a dream, and now it's not working." And I always have to tell homeowners, give it some time, right? Give it some time. Just usually a solar system, you'll see the overall benefits of a solar system after a year, right? That's just the reality. After a year and you go through all 4 seasons, you'll actually see and understand the cycle, right? It'll start to make a little bit more sense. But sometimes, once again, there's a lot of management of clients' expectations and just what they're experiencing, right? Because they'll call and they'll say, "Hey, you told me this, but this is happening, and I'm not saving. I'm paying 2 bills, blah 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 blah." We just got to give it some time. All right. Once again, these stages we don't control. You know, also depending on when a homeowner gets installed. Right. Let me give you an example. All right. If you take a look at this graph, right, you'll see let's see, this homeowner, basically what I'm trying to say is that in September, okay, so the orange line is how much electricity they use. The yellow line is how much their solar system produces, right? So let's say this homeowner got installed in October, right? Are they going to see the benefits in November too much? Maybe not, because as you can see, the solar system produces less than how much they use in November. Are they going to see the difference in December? Maybe not, because the solar system is producing less than what they use. Are they going to see it in January? No. Are they going to see it in February? No. But they may see it starting in around April. Now, once again, we talked about them getting installed in November. They didn't start seeing the benefits until April. But now look what happens in April. There's surplus. May, surplus. June, surplus. July, surplus. August, surplus. When I tell you this happens every single client, right? And it happens all of the time. As I mentioned, you don't usually see the full benefits of a solar system until after the first year. Because the first couple of months, everything's not going to make sense. First and foremost, your solar bill operates on a different time frame as your utility bill. That's one issue, right? That you're gonna, experience. The second thing is, as I just showed you, right? You get installed now, you don't really see the benefits until April, right? Sometimes it's hard to explain that to a homeowner, even though we show this, we go over it, we explain it, but showing it and explaining it, and then the homeowner experiencing it, two very different things, right? So, once again, that also affects the timeline as well. Excuse me. Now, this is the timeline just from A to Z. Let me talk about a couple of different timelines. Actually, before I move forward, any questions on that?
You're helping me with two of my solar system or solar for my house and my guest house. We're wrapping up the permitting stage and then looking for the install stage. I'm doing cash and a loan. What is the time frame? Like, does it have to be system activated before 2026 to get it to account for the 30% tax credit, or what is the metric or where do they measure from to qualify for the tax credit? I think we lost him.
Hey, Idris, you're muted.
Yeah.
I think you lost internet. Sure, I'll be logging back in.
See, Joe, you shouldn't ask so much difficult questions.
Yeah.